Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Rundown. I'm your host, MaryCatherine, and today we're talking about a story that has been on our radar and taking over our channel for the last couple of weeks, and that's the government shutdown, which we know it's over. It's finally over today, so we kind of have a little break from that sort of coverage that we have. But I have two first-time guests today. I can't believe both of you have not been on here before. We have 8 News reporter Deniel Dookan and our assistant news director, Katie Wells. Hello to both of you.
Hello.
How's everyone doing today?
Good. I'm excited.
Good. Excited to have you here. So, Katie, your role as assistant news director, you're in charge of basically guiding the newsroom in what our coverage looks like for the day with help from our news director, Bernie, and also our EP, Jessica. Tell us a little bit about how you make decisions when it comes to these big national stories that obviously affect people here at home. How do you make those decisions to cover what we cover?
Yeah, so when it's something like this that does impact so many people across the country and here in Virginia, we want to do the local stories. We want to localize the national stories, but we look for the things that are going to have the most impact on people. And that's been pretty easy with the government shutdown because, as one of the stories you did, was that Virginia is like the 6th most affected state because we just have so many federal workers, federal contractors here. We have a lot of military bases here. That's a lot of that number as well. And so it's actually really easy to find people who are impacted, which is good for us, not so good for them. But a lot of people have been really willing to talk to us about how this is affecting their lives. And I think that's just a huge help when we're doing these stories, is people explaining, I am this person and this is how this is affecting me. I'm having a hard time feeding my family. I'm having a hard time paying my bills. I'm worried about healthcare. I'm worried about this. I'm worried about that. And that's what we look for.
Deniel, you did a story yesterday about Hanover County's DASH services, which are impacted by the shutdown because they're federally funded. What other stories have you done about the shutdown that you've had to find in the community?
Yeah, I think to Katie's point, sometimes it's like pulling teeth trying to find the people who are affected by whatever it is that we're covering. But I think definitely with the shutdown, we're seeing people reach out to us, wanting us to cover what's happening. And there's been so many different ripple effects that it hasn't been difficult to go very far to search for what's happening. In addition to the story I did yesterday, we also talked to some federal firefighters. Well, we talked to the president of the Federal Firefighters Union at Fort Lee, and that was because a firefighter reached out to us. He wanted to remain anonymous, but reached out to us and told me, like, hey, we have been experiencing some crazy overtime, in addition to the fact that now we're having to work without getting paid. And so that, again, is just one of the ways that real people are being affected by things that are happening at the government level. With this gentleman that I spoke to yesterday, such a sweet guy, Eric, he is one of 1,200 people who rely on Hanover's DASH service to take him to work, and he has cerebral palsy, and this is something that is very essential to his day-to-day. And so him just having to figure out how he would have to just change his daily routine to be able to get to work is just another one of those stories of people who are impacted by the government shutdown, by federal funding uncertainties. And even though it is over now, we are still going to be seeing so many different stories come out of this because of those funding delays and how long it's going to take to trickle back to several counties.
Yeah, and also it's temporary, right? So by January 31st, if they don't have a new deal that would fund for an entire year, then we're back to right where we have been for the last, 6 weeks, 4, 5 weeks?
Yeah, it's been over a month.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you say people are reaching out to us, because I feel like, at least on my side of things as a producer, it always blows my mind the type of stories that reporters are able to find sometimes because they're reaching out in the community. What is it like when you get I guess, an email or a phone call from someone in the community, how do you vet that person and understand if this is a credible source and it's something that you want to pursue for the day? What does that look like for you guys?
So usually I think specifically for the government shutdown and the stories that we've been covering with this, when people reach out to us about things that are affecting them, it's stuff that we've already been looking into. So it's already on our radar.
This morning, House
Whether
representatives are headed
that's
back
some
to
of the
Washington,
impacts
D.C. to
SNAP
vote
and
on
how
reopening the
food
government.
pantries
You're
are
watching
being inundated
I'm
with
Delaney
people
Hall, Autumn
needing
Children's Zone.
more food, more resources, or somebody like Eric, who we already knew that DASH services were going to be impacted and that Hanover was funding it themselves. Our web team did a really great job of getting that up. So when people reach out to us and we already have these stories on our radar, it makes it even easier to vet them. And so with somebody like Eric, for example, I gave him a call and heard, him explaining what's going on and meeting him in person and just really having him tell us about what he's been dealing with. And sometimes people are even able to point you to others who are going through the same thing. So I think vetting definitely hasn't been difficult because people are going through it. And when they come to us, it's even easier for us to get directly to the source of those who are impacted.
And we ask a lot of questions typically when we're vetting people for stories. What paperwork do you have? What text messages, emails do you have? Tell us more about this. Tell us more about how this is impacting you. But in this situation, kind of like you said, we're like going to a lot of these places. Like we're going to the food bank. We're seeing people who are at the food bank getting food. And so we know that those are the people who are impacted.
Yeah. As a producer, something I've learned is that there's never too much you can do with a story like this. Like there's just so many different angles. On your end, Katie, how did you decide how many people, like how many reporters would be divvied up for shutdown versus like any other local issues going on? Because there are other things going on, even though this is kind of the big thing that we know is affecting people right now.
It's not that different from how we make decisions on any other day when there's not a shutdown, right? We just take stock of who all's working, what resources we have, and then the main things that we need to cover. What are our options? And we think about what can wait and what can't wait. And recently, the shutdown has been the thing that can't wait because people are going through it right now. People need help right now. So if there's something else that can wait a day or two or a week, we are going to prioritize the things that can't wait.
I know in the mornings, I'm going to try and bring it up and hopefully it'll be okay. Yeah, it did work. We have just the one reporter in the morning. So a lot of times we've been putting our reporter on something else more local, and then we'll rely on like our DC reporter, Basil, who actually used to work here. So this is actually cool that we get to see him. But he's live in DC every morning, or a correspondent is live in DC every morning. And this week it was him. So we relied heavily on him this week for that shutdown, what's next coverage. And that was really helpful for us in the mornings when we only have the one reporter. So it's really easy to say, all right, you're going to be on this local issue today, but how do we make sure we have the shutdown in shows? Because that's the big story of the day. Obviously, we know the shutdown is over, but it's not really over. Deniel, you're continuing to dig into the impacts of it today. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and what you got cooking today?
Yeah, so at the heart of what was holding up the shutdown was the healthcare subsidies. And so that was something that both sides had been debating on. And it's still something that's kind of up in the air because even though the bill ending the shutdown has been signed by President Donald Trump, there's still no provisions for those healthcare subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of the year. And so one of the things that we've been doing throughout this month is looking at what are some of the local impacts. And so today I'm going to be able to sit down with Virginia's insurance marketplace director and kind of talk to him about how premiums have been increasing, what are some of the concerns that they're having with these subsidies being in limbo and how that's going to affect people locally, and as well as just the help that's available for people that are looking to enroll right now. It's open enrollment, so a lot there. And like I said, we're going to have still so much to dig into even though the shutdown is ending, so definitely stick around. We're going to have a lot of coverage for sure.
Yeah, and your story will air starting at 4, so
Yes.
people can tune in then for that.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, we're going to keep following it. And I feel like that's all I had for you guys. Do you want to touch on anything else? Cool.
I think you covered it.
Alrighty. Well, we will see you guys next time. Bye.